Why is running always so hard, so difficult? How can some people love it whilst we absolutely hate it? And a mere 30 seconds of jogging has us with our hands on our knees, gasping for breath, or it feels like our muscles and joints are simply falling apart. So are some of us just not made for running? Do we not have that sort of running body shape? Or are we too heavy? Or have we just always been unfit growing up? Now here's what you need to do if you want to stop hating running so much. I used to hate running myself, and I would only lift weights. All of my peers seemed much faster than me over any distance really above 100 meters. So I just figured it wasn't for me and I would always hate it and I wasn't built for running. But I've since learned it doesn't have to be this way. I've got 3 key tips for you to help you start loving it that bit more, and you can be a bit more consistent with your training and reap all of the benefits. So the first tip and the first thing you need to do is work out the right intensity for you and your current fitness levels. Now, one reason why people hate running so much is it's just so hard to get going. It's so difficult at the start, and particularly the first couple of minutes and the first few runs are just always the worst. They're the hardest bit. But that's often because we go at it too hard to begin with, and this puts us in a massively kind of uncomfortable position and we're out of breath really quickly, and then we start to have negative thoughts, which all puts us in that place where we think we're useless at running. So before that happens, you need to do 220 minus your age. Now, this equation will be your rough predicted maximum heart rate. So if you're 20, for example, your predicted max heart rate using this equation would be 200. And if you were 30, it would be 190.
2 plus 2 is 4, minus 1, that's 3, quick maths.
So you should now have one number somewhere around that, and that's your predicted maximum heart rate, a prediction of how many beats your heart can perform in a minute if you're maxing out. But this is important because we can use this to select various intensity zones. And when you start running, you want to be in the lower intensity zones because this gets you used to running without killing yourself off and without making it impossibly hard. Because like I said, a big factor for us hating running is because we simply go out the gate too hard and we're exercising at such a high intensity that it feels so uncomfortable and it leaves you breathless within just a few seconds. So that's why getting the right intensity is super important. Now with your maximum predicted heart rate, this one number, we can start to look at running in zone 1 or zone 2. Now this is about 50 to 60% of your maximum heart rate that we worked out a minute ago. So what you need to do is just work out 50 to 60% of that maximum heart rate number that you got a minute ago. And what's great about this is the lower intensity still improves your fitness and it still improves your kind of capacity at the higher heart rate zones, which is awesome. So you can get a lot of benefits by running slowly and comfortably in a lower zone, and it's just much more enjoyable to do. So yes, you'll need your heart rate monitor for this, but they're pretty cheap now, super accurate, and link up well with most phones and watches via Bluetooth. I'll put a link to 2 that I've used in the past. Currently, I have this Garmin one. Don't know if you can see that very well, but it's on more of the expensive side. It has some additional features, but that's for another video. And any cheap chest strap should do really. They're all pretty accurate once they're around the chest. Now, once you first start implementing this, you might feel like you're going really slow, and that's what you should feel like. The goal is to keep the heart rate low, but get some time on the legs and your fitness will simply improve without you having to go through so much pain and fatigue and so many negative thoughts, making you want to stop and making you feel like you hate running. One thing to remember is there's a whole spectrum of running speeds. Even for the unfit, you don't need to be just kind of running or going at your top running speed. There's not simply walking and then running maximally. There's lots of different speeds. There's a big spectrum in between, and we want to be running where you're at a pace where you can comfortably talk, and that's basically zone 1 or zone 2. And if you go off heart rate, that's probably the most accurate way to do it. But if you're not going to go off heart rate, just go at a pace where you can basically comfortably hold a conversation with the person next to you. So nice and slow, nice and easy, and just start enjoying it a bit more, and you'll still reap all of the benefits fitness wise. At this point then, you might be thinking, how long should I run for? What sort of frequency should I do then with running at zone 1 or zone 2? And what I would suggest is starting with 5 or 10 minutes of continuous easy running, ideally 3 times per week, keeping in this low heart rate zone. Now, if it means you need to walk some, then that's completely fine. Just run some, walk some. It shouldn't feel stressful or too difficult, which is great, and it's better than nothing, and it's still improving your fitness, like I said, probably much more than you think. Then once you have the habit of doing it 3 times a week for that period of time, and it's an easy intensity, then you have the opportunity to build on that solid base that you've built up. You've built in some consistency, the habit's there, you've got some kind of mileage in the legs, and then you can start to push on from there. But that first bit of getting started typically is the biggest hurdle. So once we get over that, make that a really big kind of priority, get over that, and then you can build up from there. And actually, even a lot of the best runners, Olympic runners, really good, professional runners, they do a lot of their training at very easy intensities relative to them. So they do a lot of their training as well at, that 50 to 60% of their maximum heart rate, just to get a lot of mileage in the legs, be relatively comfortable and not produce so much fatigue and risk any injury. So there's a huge place for it, even once you've built up to a much higher level of fitness. Now, my second tip for you that's really important once you've built that foundation is not every run you're going to do is going to be a personal best. You're not going to crush it every single time, and that's a good thing. You don't want to be doing that. You don't always want to be overextending yourself beyond your maximum. You want to have enough kind of mileage in the legs, build the aerobic base with a sprinkling of harder stuff. And that just means you can constantly improve your fitness without kind of burning out or producing so much fatigue. Now, this keeps you both mentally and physically fresh, and like I said, prevents that burnout. So run, but don't try and go super fast or get PBs every single time. You might even have to hold yourself back sometimes, but that's also a great feeling to go out for a beneficial run and know that you have more in the tank. With this one, I'm actually going to chuck a bonus tip in here before I get to my last point, which is maybe the funnest bit. But the bonus bit being comparison is the thief of joy. You might have heard that quote before, but it's something that I think really resonates when it comes to fitness. Now, let me know in the comments below, if it clicks with you as well, if it resonates with you. But as soon as you get into running, or even before you start running, there's a tendency to start comparing yourself to others, especially with things like Strava. But you really do have to kind of remember that comparison is the thief of joy. It's the thief of enjoyment and happiness in some cases. And if it gets you down by comparing yourself to other people, just avoid it. The main focus is on your own progress and consistency. Start looking inwards and looking at your own progress. If you're out running, if you're starting after this video, then that's absolutely amazing. No matter what anybody else is doing, it doesn't matter what they're doing. You're going to be getting fitter, stronger, and reaping all of the benefits from it, no matter what speed you're going, no matter what time you're doing it for, no matter what distance you're doing it for, or what anybody else is doing it for. You're going to be reaping the benefits, and that's what's important. Now, my last tip for you to start kind of enjoying running that bit more and stop hating it so much is to get some gear. Now, that's going to encourage you to take some positive steps. Now, you don't need to do this one, and maybe it's a bit of a trivial one, but I find it sometimes helps with motivation. If you're going to do one thing from this video, this isn't it. It's probably the first tip that I said, so maybe go back and rewatch that a few times. But if you're wanting to muster up some extra motivation and really kind of commit to start running, then maybe buying some running shoes or some running clothes might help with that motivation. One little trick you can do with your new running equipment to encourage yourself to start running and make sure you're kind of disciplined and motivated and you're a bit more consistent is by leaving your running shoes by the front door or getting your running gear out the night before you're going to run, just so it's visible. If it's visible in sight, in mind, it will trigger that kind of positive behavior and that positive thought process of, okay, yeah, I'm going to run now. And there's less to think about when you're trying to kind of get out for a run and you're trying to make that decision whether you're going to do it or not. All of the stuff's already there, so there's less barriers, there's less time for kind of excuses to crop up. And if it's in sight, it's in mind. And that's just a little thing that might help kind of trigger some better behavior and promote that kind of consistency and get you into running that bit easier. Lastly, I just want to say you can absolutely do this. It's possible and you can reap all of the benefits of running without hating it. We're all made to run, maybe at different speeds or different distances, but it's something we can all do. We can all get better at with practice, and we don't have to kill it every single time, and something is always going to be better than doing nothing. Now, go and foster some consistency and enjoy some running. If you've made it all the way to the end of this video, then please hit the thumbs up. It really does help this small channel out. And if you're into or getting into any fitnessy type stuff, then please consider subscribing to the channel. But until my next video, have a really good one and see you then.